welcome. My name is Dino Monoxelos. I'm the Ampeg brand marketing manager here at Yamaha Guitar Group. At Ampeg, we're constantly striving to offer bass players of every skill level, whether just starting out or a seasoned professional, a solution to their bass amplification needs that'll not only help them sound their best, but also inspire them to play their best. Ampeg has a very long and storied history, not only as a brand, but also as a contributor to contemporary, modern, and present-day pop music that goes all the way back to 1940s. Now, Ampeg got its start back in 1949 as the world's first bass amplifier manufacturer. It was founded by a gentleman and bass player by the name of Everett Hull. Because of the growing sizes of big bands of that era, Mr. Hull needed a way to amplify his upright bass. So he came up with the idea of taking the end pin out of his upright bass and installing a microphone on the end of it, then reinstalling that whole thing back into the bass. So basically the end pin is the metal rod at the end of your upright that allows you to adjust the height of the bass. So Everett Hull came up with the idea of installing a special end pin with a microphone on the end of it and installing that whole assembly through the F-hole of the bass. That way there, as the end pin sits inside the bass, the microphone is inside the chamber of the upright bass, thus allowing the mic to pick up all the acoustics that are inside the bass. Really revolutionary of its time. He started calling it the amplified peg, and that's where the name Ampeg came from. So in 1949, the Ampeg Bass Amp Company was founded. Now, a couple of things to point out here. One, Ampeg was the first bass amplifier company only building bass amps specifically. Two, we were building bass amps before there were actual solid body electric basses on the market. And three, we were a bass amp company founded by a bass player who simply needed to have his upright bass heard. Now, this is a photo of an original amplified peg accompanied by a 1946 Michaels Hull bass amp. From there, Mr. Hull then went to work pitching his new amplified peg and Ampeg bass amps to bass players in New York's most famous venues, amassing an ever-growing list of artists and endorsers who love the idea of being able to finally amplify their upright basses. And to this day, Ampeg enjoys some of today's most celebrated and accomplished bass players in all genres of modern contemporary music. In 1960, Ampeg introduced the B15 Portaflex flip top. Now, this amp was revolutionary in that it offered something no other amp offered prior. The top of the amplifier would actually flip upside down into the cabinet for transportation mode. And when you were ready to play it, you'd simply unlatch the four latches and flip the head right side up. So this is a Heritage B15. Ampeg did these a number of years ago to commemorate the anniversary of the B15. So essentially you have latches on each side of the amplifier. Basically you just unlatch the latches and then you lift the head out of the cabinet. Flip it right side up, hence the name flip top. Latch it back down. Connect your power cable and your speaker cable and you're good to go. Then when you're done at the end of your gig, basically unlatch again, lift, and flip. And then just very carefully latch it back down. And there you go. That's the B15 flip top. Now, we continue to use the same exact design in our current Portaflex heads and cabinets as well. Any one of our 5 Portaflex heads can be combined with either 2 of our Portaflex flip top cabinets to build your own personal custom flip top amplifier. The B15 has been used on countless recordings, both in the studio and live, and it's arguably the most recorded bass amp in pop music history. From Beach Boys to Motown, Muscle Shoals to Atlantic recording artists, if it was recorded in the studio, there's a good chance that it was recorded on a B15. Then in 1969, everything changed. Ampeg unleashed the biggest, baddest bass amp concert stages have ever seen, the SVT. 300 watts of all-tube power. There was nothing that matched the power and response of the SVT. It was the most powerful bass head of its time. But it wasn't just the head, it was the entire package that was designed as a single system. It should be noted that the original SVTs were designed to be accompanied by not one, but two 810 cabinets. That was the SVT rig. And unlike traditional 18-inch or 15-inch speaker designs, 10-inch speakers for bass were pretty unheard of. The thought of the day was that if you wanted a big bass sound, you had to have big bass speakers. Well, with an 810 cabinet, and especially two 810 cabinets, you're essentially moving the same amount of air as you would a 215 or a single 18 cabinet. But the advantage to 8 10-inch speakers is not only do you move as much air, but the transient response of a 10-inch speaker is much quicker than that of a larger speaker. That combined with Ampeg's use of its infinite baffle design, meaning that each row of two 10-inch speakers is its own speaker compartment, gave the player a more modern, faster sound. Now, a quick note about infinite baffle design. So, unlike ported cabinets that have ports on either the bottom front or bottom rear of the cabinet, much like our HLF cabinets, the infinite baffle design uses one solid baffle board in which all 8 10-inch speakers are mounted to. However, each row of 10-inch speakers is sealed into its own 210 speaker compartment. So if I were to cut this 810 cab down the middle, you'd see 4 rows of two 10-inch speaker compartments. So essentially an 810 cabinet is a combination of 4 210 cabinets built into one big enclosure. Now this whole setup was revolutionary for its time, much like the B15 was 9 years earlier. But also like the B15, the SVT really changed the course of bass amplification and the way bass was to be recorded and heard. Ampeg was also famous for a number of other innovations, such as the Dan Armstrong plexi guitars and basses, made from clear lucite bodies and interchangeable pickups. Again, Ampeg was at the forefront of innovating new products. We were also the first company to incorporate reverb into a guitar amplifier with the Reverber Rocket and the True Stereo Echo Twin. So, like I mentioned at the very beginning, today Ampeg currently builds a wide variety of bass amps for just about every style and playing level of bass player there is. If it produces low frequencies, we've got an amplifier for it. Now currently we build 4 different versions of the SVT along with their accompanying A10 cabinets, lovingly called the fridge these days due to its similarity to today's refrigerators. Although we've made some modern day technological updates to the designs, the heart and soul of that all-tube power section and all-tube preamp remain very much the same. Now, the longest running SVT out of the 4 is the Classic Series SVT CL, which has been in production now for just about 26 years consecutively. It's actually the longest running production SVT to date and one of our best-selling SVTs ever. Classic black grille with white piping, simple plug-and-play functionality make it very easy to dial in a killer bass sound without ever touching the EQ. We also produced the SVT VR for vintage reissue, which is a faithful reproduction of the original iconic SVT from the late 60s into the late 70s, with its 2 independent channels and cool blue line graphics. This is the SVT that changed everything for so many bass players. Same heart and soul as the CL, but with 2 different channels with their own independent volume controls and no master volume control make this amp even more versatile by being able to jump and blend the 2 channels together. Then we have the Heritage Series SVT CL, which is very similar to the classic SVT CL, but built here in the US by a group of very skilled and trained individuals that hand build every Heritage head out of premium parts and components, all while paying painstakingly close attention to detail and build quality. This Heritage SVT-CL is second to none in style, sound, and functionality, while still, again, retaining the heart and soul of what an SVT should sound like. Check it out. EQ is completely set flat. It really is a plug-and-play amp. Seriously, you get a close-up and see where my EQ settings are. Everything really is set flat. I can engage the ultra high and the ultra low to get more of a modern scoop sound. Now, most recently, Ampeg introduced the latest SVT in the Heritage series called the Heritage 50th Anniversary SVT. So when Yamaha acquired the Ampeg brand in 2018, they wanted to honor the long history of the brand and this iconic amp in celebrating the 50th anniversary of the SVT. The Heritage 50th Anniversary SVT really is 50 years in the making. It incorporates 50 years of development and technology along the way. We sort of taken the best of each SVT over the last 50 years and incorporated it into this amp. So remember how I said the original SVTs had 2 independent channels? The Heritage 50th does as well. In fact, looking at an original SVT, like I have here, and a Heritage 50th, it's really hard to tell the difference between the two, other than one is shiny and new, and the other one has, well, seen some, shall we say, action. The difference inside is that we've taken 2 of the most requested eras of the SVT and combined them into the Heritage 50th. Channel 1 is voiced after the original Linden, New Jersey Blue Line SVTs from 1969, giving you a really raw, unashamed, in-your-face bass sound. Channel 2 is voiced after the 1975 Magnavox era SVTs, a bit more refined, cleaner, with more headroom. And just like the original SVTs, you can jump to 2 channels to combine even more killer tones. We've also enhanced the XLR line out to reflect both channels rather than just channel 1 as in previous SVTs. So now you can send both channels to front of house. Now, as for appearance, like I said, it might be hard to tell the difference between the Heritage and a vintage SVT. We really want to remain true to those vintage cosmetics. Look closely and you'll see something that Ampeg hasn't done for a very long time with its etched blue line graphics. Now, I know it might not seem like much, but it's this attention that really shows dedication to the details that go into this amplifier. Now, just a quick note on jumping channels on an SVT like I had mentioned. Basically what you're doing is you're jumping from channel 1 into channel 2 or channel 2 into channel 1, however you want to do it. Now this can be done on any vintage SVT, our SVT VRs, as well as and especially our Heritage 50th Anniversary SVT. So let me demonstrate. Right now I'm plugged into channel 1. Now if you notice, channel 1 I have it dialed up mostly for treble and mid-range, the bass and ultra low are all right. Okay, so it's pretty much a very trebly, punchy type sound. Let me switch over to channel 2 here. Channel 2 is just the opposite. I have all the treble rolled off, but I have the bass and the ultra low engaged. So very little definition. It's all this sub-low bass, okay? So I'm going to go back into channel 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out of channel 1 bright into channel 2 normal. And you can use just a normal regular effects patch cable, a shielded effects patch cable. So I'm going to come out of channel 1, I'm going to jump into channel 2. Now all 4 of these inputs are all wired for parallel, so whatever goes in one comes out the other 3, okay? So the beauty of this now is I have the EQ from channel 1 and the EQ from channel 2. Okay, so here's channel 2, the low end, and here's channel 1, all the mid-range and treble, okay? Now, let me see if I can do this here. As I roll in channel 2, if I need more bass, so if I want less treble, I simply roll out channel 1. So the beauty of this is rather than re-EQing each channel, if you need more treble or more bass or less treble and less bass, it's simply a matter of turning up or down the volume control for the respective channel. So again, channel 1, channel 2. So that's how you jump the channels in an SVT. Now, just last month, we also had the opportunity to have some fun with producing a limited edition run of red MicroVRs, which we just launched a couple of weeks ago. MicroVRs have been around for a while now, and this one here is actually my personal unit. But don't let its small size fool you. As a standalone rig, it's basically a 150 watt, all solid state head coupled to an 8 ohm 210 sealed cabinet with no horn. Now remember how I was talking about those 210 compartments in an 810 cabinet? Well, the 210 AV cab here is essentially one of those compartments. Now add a second 210 cabinet or an even bigger 4 ohm cab like an SVT 212 AV, and you've got a pretty killer little rig here. Plus, the MicroVR has quickly become a favorite recording rig for a lot of home and professional studios around the world. So, our friends at Yamaha Japan asked if we could do a run of red MicroVRs to celebrate one of their artists' 50th birthday. So we happily said yes, providing we could also produce a limited run of our own red MicroVRs for the entire world. So, here you go. This is the MicroVR limited edition red. Now you can have all the features and benefits of a MicroVR, but also stand out on stage or in the studio doing so. So that's really just a quick history of Ampeg and what we've been working on recently. At least that's all I can tell you here at this time. Seriously though, I've been with Ampeg for about 17 years now, and on a personal level, I can't tell you how excited I am for the future of this brand. Ampeg basically invented bass amplification, and over the last 70 years has revolutionized and developed some of the most iconic bass amps of all time, no doubt. Now, we all know the world is changing, especially the world of live music, and even more so the world of amplification, especially bass amplification. We're continuously working on new and innovative solutions for every level of bass player out there, whether they require the power and performance of a full-blown SVT rig, or something maybe not so big, or even an amplifier for that matter, that they can bring into the studio with them on a fly date. Yes, we do have a very long and rich history. I'm always excited talking about it because it tells the story of what Ampeg is and always has been. But it's the history that we're gonna make moving into the future with new products that really gets me excited. Hey, thanks for watching, and for all things Ampeg, be sure to check us out at ampeg.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My name's Dino Monoxelos. Play more bass.